welcome everyone to the February installment of Carmine Street Metrics. I'm here with my co-hosts, Wendy Sloan and Therese Coe, and our feature readers this month are Len Krisak, Lena Phillips Bell, and our very own co-host, Wendy Sloan. So as usual, we're going to start with a few people for the open mic. Our first open mic reader is Charlotte Innes. Charlotte, please unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. This is called A Starlit Sky Turned Upside Down, and it has a dateline, Christmas Day 2021. It's Christmas. Oh, I should say it's syllabics too, just for the meter people, you know. It's Christmas, time to decorate my living room with seasonal reminders. Last year, a tiny potted cypress, sequin covered. Now, poinsettia. My green vase, a family relic, filled with twigs of blazing winterberry. What to call them? Dissenting flags to wave in winter's face? Color to keep the dark at bay? Last year's sequins stuck to my kitchen floor won't be brushed away. They twinkle, a starlit sky turned upside down. It's where my cat would eat. Something lifts. Glitter on, I say. It's odd. I felt at peace for hours. Echoes of 20 years ago when I moved in, my haven, till shadows crept inside. Now, peace? Pleasure once was stille Nacht around the tree. In the glow of clip-on candles, faces tipped to the cardboard star up top, foil wrapped, a battered thing my mother made not long before she died. My father made no fuss, but liked to see it glimmer there. After turkey and Christmas pies, by bowls of tangerines and nuts, we sang the German carols that he'd kept inside. As I still know, O Little Town and We Three Kings. On Christmas night, beneath the tree's small warmth, we sang away his flight, those killers, the poison they left, the pain we still give each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Our next reader is George Witte.
So this poem, I just had after a long journey, a book accepted for publication this fall by Unbound Editions Press. So this is one of the poems. In it, it's a sonnet. It's called Whereabouts Unknown. He lies as if already carved in stone. Cold brow, patrician nose and chin, clasped palms expecting swift ascent to cloudy realms. No fearful penitence for what he'd done. Anonymous, the hospice room erased remains of circumstantial evidence. Here predators enjoy beneficence, abluted, powdered, turned, and fed with grace. Rough justice would ignore these rituals, deny iniquity should find reprieve with constant laying on of hands. Soft bells suggest it's time for visitors to leave. Forgiven trespass, he demurs with tact. I'd rather not get into all of that.
Thank you, George, and congratulations on the new upcoming book. Hopefully we'll hear more about it in the future.
Thank you.
The next reader is Gordon Gilbert. Gordon, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. There. This is entitled Home. Not this place anymore. This place is just where home was found. A space that for a time, clearly demarcated by two gates before and after, sheltered Mother Earth and Father Sky and all of us, her children. Change is time's child and always comes and goes with time. She takes our past away. Remembered for a time, perhaps, or even anchored for a while by monuments or accomplishments still recognized and valued, sometimes even fruitlessly in attempts to recreate what was unique, but all in vain. Our forward progress stalls, distracted by poor imitation, while time continues on. Change marks for us time's passage, creating predicates for what comes next. We cannot help ourselves. We have no choice. We must continue on ourselves. Time is a river that carries us forward as now becomes past, and ever in the moment we flow downstream into an uncertain future, new landscapes, new horizons, where we may make for ourselves a new home in the present, in the now, knowing we may not return again to that home where we began our journey long ago, where we can only go now in our dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. One more reader before the first feature is John Foy.
Okay, Anton, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Am I unmuted?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, thanks. It's a real pleasure to be here with everybody. I'm going to read a short poem. It's an anagram poem, and it is based on a phrase that I found interesting. The phrase is called forcibly medicated. And I ran that phrase through an anagram generator online. And the anagram generator came up with over 147,000 possible phrases. And so I took 20 lines that were culled and adapted from all those choices. And I cheated a little bit. I added some syntax and a couple of other things to give these 20 lines some kind of rhetorical coherence. The 18th century English poet and critic Addison would probably have called this an example of false wit as opposed to true wit, because it's based just on wordplay. But it is what it is, and I had fun writing it. And if there's any art in it, it's simply in the fact that I had to select 20 phrases from over 147,000 and make them fit together somehow. Yeah, so that's what it is. Forcibly medicated. I, the deftly iambic coder with my bad fit lice credo, a comic edited barfly, got my bad co-ed tick rifle and killed the balmy certified doc. I rectified the bald medico and his fetid dorm celibacy. I acted with diced lamb ferocity to blast the demotic carbide fly and his bald-faced icy merit. I, with my bold-faced deficit of mercy, did not defy the combat lyric. Alas, with my bardic oil defect, I left bardic comedy. I left the fey melodic catbirds to the bardic city demo elf. But I did lift my cobra dice and paid my dire comic fly debt and never defiled the comity of crabs. I became then an old icy drift. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, John, for this very, very interesting experimental poem. You have to watch out for those demo elves. They're very different from
Yeah.
All right, at this time, I'm very honored to introduce an old friend of mine, a fantastic poet, Len Krisak. I'm going to read his bio just quickly. Len Krisak's two most recent books are Say What You Will, original poems from Able Muse Press, which I think won the annual Able Muse Award, and the Aeneid, complete verse translation of Virgil's epic. His work has appeared in Hudson, Sewanee, Antioch, Southwest, and PM Reviews, and in many other journals. The recipient of the Richard Wilbur, Robert Frost, and Robert Penn Warren Prizes, he is also a 4-time champion on Jeopardy! Welcome, Len. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Anton. Thank you to Carmine Street Metrics. And I think I'll just launch right into this if that's okay. I'm very fond of epigrams. And I thought I would start with one called Biblically Informed Query. It's a question I think everyone here will recognize. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. With Rome, perhaps, but what excuse have you? Another epigram, this one a favorite of Anton's actually, and that's part of the reason why I'm reading it, but I like it too. It's called Epitaph of a Garrulous Man, who could not stop his mouth, now lies 6 feet due south, to pass eternity in taciturnity. I think we should always start off with a little humor. The next poem is biblically referenced also. I'm sure a number of you will notice where it's from, but it's kind of a retelling. It's called From the Second Book of the Law. What you should do is not a mystery, nor is its meaning oh so far away. It's not in heaven, forcing you to say, whom should we send to bring it down from there so we can hear it and obey? It's not far out to sea, compelling you to ask who will undertake the task of sailing off and sailing back with it so that we can hear what it may be and act. It's near instead. It's in your heart and in your head. And in your mouth is what I've said, what you must do. It's up to you. Here's a poem about our house, the actual house I'm sitting in right now. And it's called Beam. There are a couple of carpenter's references, but I'm sure most people will understand that. Beam. Almost a ton of lumber, 1 foot square, spanning from sill to sill the small cape's length. It has put up with all that it can bear for decades, daunting doubters with its strength. It has upheld the house and all the weight of those the walls enclose who walked its floors. Rough-hewn, unplaned but true, it lies in state, shouldering the joists and 2x4s, carrying the studs both king and jack that raise and prop the rafters of the roof. It is a pledge of a strong, bending back, and of the builder's wisdom stands as proof. There really is such a beam. This next poem, just a word of explanation. Very, very long time ago, a dog and a young boy. It's called Plea. Too young to comprehend, he only knows the skinny terrier pup in rust and black is chasing him as if his parents chose this would-be pet to hunt him down. In play, 16 hard claws go racing click and clack across the polished hardwood toward the prey ebullient ratters see. All devil's ears, he corners at the open basement door, a child enveloped in a gale of fears. Balked there, the terrier nips and yaps for joy, the winner of their game. The screaming boy, not 3 yet, frightened to his deepest core, kicks out with one scuffed Buster Brown, tumbling his terrorizer, yelping down the stairs and ending in the cellar dark, from which is heard no whimper, yelp, or bark. This creature, meant to be a son's best friend, would, in the fullness of his time, have died over half a century ago, even had he met his breed's best end, at which perhaps the boy might well have cried. In memory lies the one survivor, though, poor brute whom toddler fear would not let live. Take in life in this, we beg. Forgive, forgive. Sorry for that little stumble there. We don't always get our papers in the right order, do we? I'm sure everybody knows the story of Ovid, how he was exiled to the Black Sea. Wasn't technically exile, relegatio, but it was banishment. And he ended up in the tiny little town of Tomis, and he did not like it. It's called Moesian, the poem's Moesian, and Moesia is the province in which Tomis is situated. With Tomis now his locked down only home, he climbs the walls with sword and shield, a sick and haggard poet, scanning the treeless, endless steppe for those who fire poison arrows. He cons his plight, so this is lonely. Rome still haunts him. Caesar will not yield. Relegatio means the banning of the princeps crypto foes. His woeful sentence harrows. Blitzing the iced up Danube, sowing terror, Scythians maraud for plunder. The years ahead turn gray and flatten, unmorphing through eternity. The prospect timeless, stark. So, banished for a Carmine and an error, he sees all hope is torn asunder. Why speak his verses in the Latin Getic's lack? God, it would be like dancing in the dark. And the last poem, which I think brings us in at 9 minutes. One of the things I'm not altogether thrilled with about ekphrastic poems is that so many of them simply seem to me to be descriptive. And I think if you're dealing with an ekphrastic poem, a work of art, say a painting, the poem should do a little more than just describe. There is some description in this poem, but I hope I've tried something a little fresh. It's a painting by Monet, and it's called His Magpie. Across this snowscape in the morning light, I scan the cold. There's nothing here to eat but shadows, blue and pink devouring white. Where sun was, snow has buried all the wheat. No scuttling prey betrays a chance of meat, and everything is far too blinding bright. Packed clumps of snow weigh down the black-limbed trees, arthritic branches rhyming with my back. Dead beauty, that is all this magpie sees. Roosting atop my canted, crippled gate. In frozen silence, I know only lack. Sitting for Monet, how long must I wait? I thank you once again. Thanks to Anton and to everybody.
Well, thank you very, very much, Len. So I am now going to ask anybody who would like to unmute themselves so that we can all applaud.
Yay! Yay!
Someone has a doigle in the background there. Marion Shore, I think, has a doigle.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very, very much, Len.
Thank you.
That was great. I love the one about Ovid. Amazing. I mean, about, yeah, Ovid, right. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah, thank you for being here and for reading with us. All right, so we're going to continue. Have a few more open mic readers. I'm going to mute everybody again. Let's see. So, Marion, sure, you are here now, I believe. Okay, so Marion, would you like to mute yourself?
Sure. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Regarding the Bruegel, I put that up last night actually for a karaoke I was doing. And I would rather have just my regular one. I thought this would be silly and sort of distracting. This should be more dignified. I can't get my background back, my normal background. So I went with this. But anyway, then I realized it sort of does match what I'm going to read because I'm going to read a poem, a translation by the medieval French poet François Villon. So it sort of does match. And it's called The Ballade of Small Talk. I know when flies are in the milk. I know the fellow by his clothes. I know coarse wool from finest silk. I know when winter comes and goes. I know a tree by how it grows. I know when all is like all else. I know who works, who takes repose. I know all things except myself. I know the hustler's tricky words. I know the friar by his gown. I know the servant by his lord. I know the long veil of the nun. I know a vest by how it's sewn. I know the fool with the well-stocked shelf. I know the wine by where it's grown. I know all things except myself. I know the horse, the mule as well. I know their loads must weigh a ton. I know Beatrice and Belle. I know the counter adding sums. I know when sleep and waking come. I know Rome's sovereignty and wealth. I know the Hussite must be shunned. I know all things except myself. Prince, you see, I know the score. I know who's sick and who's in health. I know death's always at my door. I know all things except myself. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. That is a poem that I really love, and actually I know the Russian translation of it, which was there's a musical version. There's like a song that's performed by a singer that performed at the Sochi Olympics, and she actually has a version of this poem in Russian.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. Is there a video?
I'm not sure if there's a video, but there's definitely like an audio on YouTube. You know, I'll look for it.
If there's a link, would you send it to me? I'd love to hear that.
All right. So our next open mic reader is T.C. Gardstein. Let's go unmute yourself.
Hi there. Unmuted. Thank you for having me, and thanks to everyone who came out on this cold Sunday or warm Sunday, wherever you are. And happy Chinese New Year. This poem is called Supplemental Insurance. Congratulations. You have successfully submitted your non-choice of company medical insurance, a PPO with a not too ridiculous annual deductible that will most likely be accepted by most providers within a 50-mile radius of your residence, whether or not it truly feels like a home. But as long as you are still in this cyber portal that knows far too much about you, including but not limited to your income, social security number, marital status, fantasies, darkest secrets, most deluded hopes, and OCD-fueled fears concerning your sooner or later post-pandemic existence, please click here to learn more about the supplemental insurance your new employer is graciously offering you during this narrow window of opportunity before the window slams shut on your false sense of security. Dental, because you probably have teeth, even if it is no longer a full set, and if you do not put money where your mouth is, pun intended, LOL, you run the risk of developing heart disease, diabetes, dementia, and fewer options for selfie expression. So here are 2 plans, each with 3 subplans that will drive you to phone your dentist and speak with an unmotivated receptionist who will pass the buck and encourage you to reach out to both insurance companies. You will fail to get them to admit how dirty and low down they will play it with the receptionist after your exams, which will then compel you to develop your latent psychic ability and foretell how your vulnerable gums will fare under the stress of working at a new job that you already wish you could quit, and how likely it will be that you get 8 cavities at once, as inexplicably occurred 3 winters ago. Congratulations. It took you only 2 days to roll the dice there. Now, on to vision. I need not remind you that without it, you would be unsuited to continue working at your current position, as well as most others, except for writing, which clearly has not turned out to be a viable career for you. And if you have not made it by now, you may as well come to terms that it makes a very nice weekend hobby, much less dangerous and costly than your previous modes of recreation. Back in the day, when you felt so invincible, you only had catastrophic insurance that is no longer even legal. When your neck had not yet merged with your chin and your figure was effortlessly hourglass, no matter how much junk you poured into it, when you had appetites for far more than food, and the energy of the pink, perpetually sunglassed Energizer bunny that started pooping batteries when you were just a college freshman and is still going, while these days you yourself are barely functioning. But I digress. Here are 2 vision plans, no subplans, so you can relax. Now then, if you can read the first one without adjusting the font size on your screen, you do not need it. If you can read the second plan, congratulations, you are unexpectedly fluent in Sanskrit. If you think there is no more to see here, another intended pun, LOL. Guess again, you must click continue to consider more supplemental options such as life insurance in case you die. It is being offered free of charge, but you will need to ponder your beneficiaries, and it is no joke that one of them can be yourself. Also gratis, dismemberment insurance. Disability insurance is somewhat reasonably priced, either short or long term, take your pick. If you actually have any money left in your pay period to squander on further supplemental insurance, click here to cover your increasing impatience toward the relentless workload that is inexorably alienating you from your initially impressed supervisor. Next, click here to cover your heart in case it breaks, with an option to replace it with a non-fungible token. And finally, click here to cover your cold feet for the rest of this seemingly endless winter. Remember to submit in every sense of the word by the last day of this first month of the year, or else the selections you sweated over will vanish, the way even your most vivid dreams do when your alarm clock, which you consider charmingly retro but is really embarrassingly archaic, drop kicks you into yet another soul-sucking day. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, DC.
Isn't America great? Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, very relatable poem, and it's in a weird conversion. Like I woke up this morning at like 3:30, suddenly realizing that I still had not gotten my insurance card for 2022, and like in panic ran to my computer to check that I actually have coverage, and I didn't like accidentally not register when I was enrolling back in November. So quite a coincidence.
Okay, we all have to move to Europe now. So
yeah, somebody should write a book, or maybe you can title a book, pun intended, LOL. thing that's.
And there's a little wink emoticon also, but I wasn't sure how to say that.
Yes. Thank you. So
right,
our next reader is Susanna Lee. Welcome, Susanna.
Thank you, Anton. This is so far such a lovely poetry reading. And I really love the humor in that last poem. My poem is short, hopefully humorous. It is because of the pandemic. I've been watching a lot of old movies. So this is entitled Touching Ginger Rogers' Dress. Fred Astaire's fancy toe taps, his Mona Lisa sly lip looks, and flirty waltz dance steps earned old Blue Eyes the right to dare to touch with fingertips the satin fabric covering the zippered slit on the back side of his dancing partner's dress, but not low enough to feel what's there, her hips beneath her silken slip, nor it caress, though firm and soft it likely is, where it sits, her derriere. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna. And I hope that you'll come back to more of our readings. So at this time, I'm very honored to introduce our second feature reader, Lena Phillips Bell. Lena Phillips Bell is the author of Ornament, winner of the Vassar Miller Poetry Prize, and the chapbook Smaller Songs from St. Bridget Press. She is the recipient of a North Carolina Arts Council Fellowship in Literature, and her artist's books, including A Pocket Book of Forms, a travel-sized guide to prosody, have been selected for exhibitions at Abecedarian Gallery and Asheville Bookworks. Recent work appears in the Southern Review, Subtropics, and Memoirs, and in anthologies, including Counter-Desecration, a glossary for writing within the Anthropocene, and a literary field guide to Southern Appalachia. The editor of Ecotone, she teaches at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and calls ungendered Appalachian square dances in what is now called North Carolina and beyond. Annalena, please unmute yourself and welcome.
Thank you so much, Anton. It's so great to be here and see so many faces I haven't seen in a long time and to hear these marvelous poems. Yeah, what a lovely way to spend a Sunday afternoon. I'll read a couple poems to start from my first book, Ornament. And also just to say how delightful it is to read in a space where a meter is welcome. As we all know, that's not always the case. So I'm just appreciating that right now. This is called Strapless. Fearing my nipples would betray themselves beneath their bodice, I donned a strapless bra. But it revolted, slipping from my breasts, dismounted them, inched down my waist to where it rested, chaste, symmetric, satisfied. See the miraculous brassiere, it cuts her clean in half, and yet she lives. I died all night, again and again, as it marked the span of my torso, cleaving hours into minutes, 10, 5, 2, till I excused myself and left, face-stricken. What must he have thought? I never had the thought to take it off. Instead, in the bathroom mirror's sudden glare, I wrestled it again up over my breasts, then darted back to the gym to mirror ball shimmer and slow dance, praying to be taken for a girl, whether or not I knew I was. Stitch. Making myself content with what was half plenty, good, but never what you'd call fine tailoring, I worried out a hole in what I knew of love. Don't move too much in this, your only shirt. It'll all unstitch. And the gap sewed itself into myself. What's missing now is the feel of missing something. Should I be wary, lacking it, or find this double absence sweet? We've cut and pinned our pieces. We have ripped out hymns, unseeming. But in our rending, not a knot is sundered that we cannot base down, sew up, make right. I pinch all I've held apart, in case of what? Shut. Now press, now stitch, now billow, splendid. I thought I would continue the sartorial theme and read a poem that came out in a lovely little online and print journal called Cordella. This is called Lines to be Tied to Garment Tags in the Underwear section of a department store. Riddle. I tell the secrets of your flesh, your bones, your joints, your every crease. Imply the clothes beneath your clothes, and thus the lack of clothes beneath. Moral. Risk the seam, the hinge, the way we're made. Like the lover in that tale who wore a velvet ribbon round her neck, and when her lover pulled the ends, her head fell off. And be unsewn, unknown, undone. Plea. Little thong, who made thee? We cannot know who made thee. We know they went home wearily, if they went home at all. Enumeration. 1 ring to hold the left. 1 ring to circle the smooth of the lower back and the place to rest a hand in decisiveness or hold onto, and the hip bone and the soft expanse below the belly button, and the other hip bone and the other place to hold onto or on which to rest a hand in decisiveness. 1 ring to hold the right. Ode. Oh, skin that folds around the leg of a cat or of a dinosaur, bedecked in scales or proto-feathers, bald or concealed in handsome fur. Oh, margin marked by excess, room for shift, for leap, for curl and purr. Rhyme. Boy short, bikini, hipster, brief. How many thread lines will you leave on the skin when taken off? We show your absence in relief. Imperative. Be not an insult to our forms, but a reification of them. Be grown by someone paid well for their labors. Be longer lasting than a week or a whim. Be sewn by someone paid well for their labors. Be made of cotton, linen, silk, anything but plastic. Be, nonetheless, a little elastic. Spell. Bring chalk, bring piping, boldest rule that ever measured out a curve. Line in neon rickrack, gold, stem stitched down the fabric's fall, to sign the part where parts confer, where joints rest in themselves and move. I thought I would read a little anagrammatic poem since John read one, and this one is from a series called The Endearments that's made out of the sweet words we use to call the people we love. And so the term of endearment ends the poem, it's the last line, and the rest of the poem is made entirely out of those letters. And I want to say these are analog poems. I made up all those darned anagrams myself. Yeah, so this is a little endearment. Laud a bad guy, dub a gal ugly, a bad day, glub by glub. Lay by a glad day, a dab, a daub, a gaudy bud. Land ably, ladybug. Let's see. I also want to read a poem that I'm often unsatisfied with villanelles, but I was satisfied with this one, so I thought I'd share it with you. It's called Plum Mule, Plum Rule, and Plum Gouger, a scene from the Picture Dictionary. Dapper, two-halved, first ever leaves, piercer and dipper of juice drops from droops, pulser and swinger, stock still stander, cleaves the straight from the narrow, the world held in halves, all angles, right angles, no time left for loops. Dapper, two-halved, first ever leaves. Hip deep in roses, and eye high in loaves, have all and have some in sips made of hopes. Pulser and swinger, stock still stander, cleaves desire from desirer, desired to deserves, as you hold them whole, sending sap for both lobes. Dapper, two-halved, first ever leaves, larger than later, awaiting preserves will make if the weevil will leave us some lapse. Pulser and swinger, stock still stander, cleaves tighter to gravity, lips to the curve of the earth. While you climb from the pits to the ups, dapper, two-halved, first ever leaves, pulser and swinger, stock still stander, cleaves. And I'll just read one more. This is a little tiny poem. It's called Against Stoicism. An itch, untouched, will twitch and wail till an answering scratch unhitches hell. A tempered squeal can conjure oil. Squeak, wheel, you may as well. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much, Annalena. That was wonderful. Please unmute yourselves. And our next open mic reader is Nathan Horowitz. Nathan, please unmute yourself.
Hi, greetings everybody.
Hello.
Everywhere up and down the East Coast and everywhere else. Stay warm. I've got a translation from German. An Austrian writer who works as a playwright in Zurich named Hugo Ramneck. And unlike the Villon poem, it's about somebody who's not wondering about himself, but about something else. It's called The Moon Mad Beast. Good God, what is that weird old beast? Is it an animal at least, howling at the moon on high? Now it's clear I hear it sigh. Or has it yet a different sound? A bark? No, 'tis no belling hound. It's beastly hello. No, it's bellow. Turns my face a cheesy yellow. It's garish, marish, bleating verse, a supplication or a curse. What the hell's it doing here, that gray or greenish wolf or deer? The only thing uncontradicted's that the beast is moon addicted. Did it surge from turgid water like a mega river otter? I think what kind of thing it is, I'd have to ask a scientist. Is it a dragon born too soon on this river bank of doom? A sick and groaning water sprite weeping in the loony night? Or is it yet a giant louse that wandered from a stately house? Did Dr. Frankenstein create it? Alcohol intoxicate it? Or is it highly strung and kind, crestfallen at its own sad mind? Is it an existential banshee that ain't at all, but only can be? Alone among the other fauna, did it spring here from nirvana? Is it in fact a brand new being on the sand discreetly peeing? Did it streak here from a distant planet, sucking on a pomegranate, clinging to a dusty comet, trying only not to vomit? Yes, maybe it's an alien. That's why it speaks mammalian with beastly hellos. No, with bellows. I do so hope the thing soon mellows. Its nature I will never know, while through this mad old world I go. I ask the moon, but get no answer from that sleepy necromancer, that meditative white balloon. Away above us floats the moon. Across the sky he slowly slips. No mantra moves his silver lips. And so the mad beast lost the moon, despite its hello bellow tune. and its garish, marish, bleating verse, its supplication or its curse, was silenced by the universe. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so very much, Nathan. And I hope you join us again.
Thank you.
Our next open mic reader is Zara Raab. Zara, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here. Such fun. I've enjoyed the reading a lot. I'm going to read one poem, a short sonnet called Draw, D-R-A-W, Draw. I am a writer now, it's true. I who began my life backwoods on Duncan's flat. For when I went to draw some use from what the world gives out, I find the words I knew, and some unknown as yet, the only mean of mine unbruised at birth. For when yet young and unclaimed as a proper citizen of the stream where I'd been rudely spawned, something not quite native stymied me, and so I let my chances slip away, penning down no job or wife, for I could not be classified with certainty. As to paternity, there were no clues, but lines of verse. In these I found my use.
Thank you very much, Zara. And our next reader is Arthur Russell. Arthur, are you
I
there?
think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Well, thank everybody for this great reading. And Annalena, I am going to use the word cleave that you used in your poem. So 2 in 1 day is kind of a record, I think. This is called College. Stand here beside the door before we leave, and let me take your picture one more time. While Mom hauls down the rear hatch with a heave, stand here beside the door before we leave. Naive as August leaves steadfastly cleave to trees, we hear the hollow wind chime. Stand here beside the door before we leave, and let me take your picture one more time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arthur. And next up is Chris O'Carroll.
Thank you, Anton. The poem I'm going to read is from my new book, Abracadabritude. And I want to say I've already heard from some of you about the book, and I'm very grateful for all your kind words. Since we're only a week out from Valentine's Day, this is a love poem. It's one that I wrote after listening to a lot of country and Western music. So it's not necessarily a good love poem, but it's good enough. And the reason I know that is because it says so right in the title, Good Enough Love Song. Thank you for settling for me, darling. That's just what I was hoping you would do. Though I know I am not God's gift to women, God knows I might be good enough for you. Time was when we both hankered for perfection, some combination swimsuit model saint. But nowadays, you do a lot of loving in spite of everything this lover ain't. You settled for me like it all was settled. We both would be okay somehow, some way. Give me another dose of your good loving. Who knows? I might be good enough one day. I'm thankful you're the one that settled for me when other girls had better things to do. Darling, you're some kind of gift from heaven. So here on earth, I'm good enough for you. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Thank you very much, Chris. All right. So now I'm delighted to introduce our third reader, who is our esteemed co-host. Wendy Sloan practiced labor law with the firm of Hall and Sloan before returning to poetry. Her collection is Sunday Mornings at the Café Méditerranéen from Kelsey Books, 2016. Sloan's poems and translations have appeared in various journals, including Big City Lit, Blue Unicorn, Light, Measure, Metzacamine, The Orchards, The Raintown Review, and Think, and in the anthologies, the Able Muse translation issue, The Best of the Raintown Review, Extreme Sonnets, The Great American Wise Ass Poetry Anthology, Love Affairs at the Villa Mel, and Poems for a Liminal Age, benefiting Médecins Sans Frontières, UK. She was a finalist in the Howard Nemeroff Sonnet Competition, and several of her poems have been nominated for Pushcart Prizes. Sloan lives in New York, where she co-hosts the Carmine Street Metrics Poetry Reading Series, alongside, of course, Therese Coe and myself. So welcome, Wendy, and looking forward to hearing you.
Thanks, Anton. Okay, good to see everyone, as it always is. Twilight. My love is like the bare November hills, fading to a hazy purple hue, darkening as the coming winter fills the ridge with shades. I've made my peace with you, the you that's present. Oh, but what I'd give to have the old you back, if just a dream, a haunt of night horizons. Still, you live, struggling to clutch your dimming self-esteem. I am the keeper of your flickering flame, the bosun to your ever-slackening grip, the prompter in the wings, cueing your name, the nurse that holds you, tottering as you slip into the darkness. Darling, this slow death, this thread your fate unwinds, pull tight that string, strike it, as every minute now must sing, reverberating till the final breath takes me from you, and you at last from me, into the hollows of eternity. Word. Then came the year you kept repeating, Wendy, till you had but a single greeting, Wendy. Your world reduced to just one proper noun for anyone you chanced on meeting, Wendy. Each thing you saw, each thing you touched, for every phrase you were completing, Wendy. Though I was pleased that you still knew my name alone, this soon proved self-defeating, Wendy being the only way you had of naming, being, that is, a form of cheating, Wendy, and everyone else to get by. All day, your sole response, incessant bleating, Wendy. And once you stopped, you'd no more names at all. Now I could shake you, plead, entreating, Wendy. To Jonathan, as our grandson Leo turns 8. Leo remembers you the way you were and are, your spirit, soul, mind, heart, whatever. So when I say it was at his 4th birthday that you first seemed ill, he yells, no, he's okay. I'm sorry, Lee. I hug him, stroke his hair. And he retains it all, how his friends would spar with you when we picked him up after school, till that became less funny and more cruel as they sensed weakness. Games he learned to love, from catch to batting, your worn out baseball glove, rare treasured hand-me-down. Those bygone times he climbed your lap, your shoulders. Something chimes between you yet. You recognize him still. And somehow, I suspect, you always will. This is Nighttime, part 1. He's unable to speak now, and his bed is pushed up against mine, the rail on his lowered. Most recently, your habit is to sprawl out horizontally across your bed and onto mine. At night, I feel you crawl still closer, and I stroke your curly head. And when we're half asleep, you take my hand and hold it tight a minute in your own. I wonder, do you even understand? This is the most affection that I've known these 5 long years. I know that I am more to you than keeper of what time you steal. It's decades, darling, decades long before your illness that we put the fatal seal upon our pact. Yes, show me you're still there, and in what mind is left to you, you care. 2. All lies. Last night you took my hand all right to shove it off away from you. Last night you shoved my hand abruptly when it lay on yours. You pushed it hard as if to say, did you forget, baby, how much I've changed, how I detest the slightest touch? And you recoiled from mine. I know you're ill. You can't control the damage to your brain, though you could compensate in part and will attempt to temporarily retrain. Still, as I kiss your lips goodnight, you rise to meet mine, and you look me in the eye. And on my life, I'd swear that kiss is true, but nobody can say, not even you. This is March 22nd, 2020. New York locks down. When suddenly the sickness came and willed us kept apart, we built up walls, stone after stone, vast citadels of hurt. I kept the shutters battened down against the only sound, a siren sliced through empty streets to mark a passing wound, and every door was bolted tight, and every lock was turned against the rabid pestilence that friend and stranger churned. I paced the rooms in silence, stunned, a solitary soul, without a nod, without a touch. In silence were we all. We watched behind our barricades of solace. There was none, as thousands drew a final breath and met with death alone. And when the order was declared that we at last were free to open wide our doors again, I had misplaced the key. This is, I have 2 more. This is a translation from the Italian of Leopardi. He's one of the top ranking in the minds of Italians of their poets. And he was an early 19th century romantic. Giacomo Leopardi, L'Infinito, the infinite. It's always been dear to me, this lonesome hill, and this hedgerow as well that effaces so much of the farthest horizon. Still, sitting and gazing, those interminable spaces way out there, the superhuman silences and the profoundest of quiets. I conjure them up in my own thoughts until my heart trembles with fear on the sheer edge of terror. And as the wind rustles through the hedge, I compare this voice to that infinite silence. And the eternal overcomes me, and the dead seasons, and the present, and living, and the sound of it. So my thoughts are drowned in this immensity, and the shipwreck is sweet to me in this sea. This is the last one. Another cheerful ditty. No, just kidding. This is called Thanatos. Thanatos. Into the bitter morning, down the stairs of fire and ice, when the caretaker whistles his warning, he won't have to beckon twice, and will bend beneath the awning. How bitter the trees, how bare, and go into the bitter morning, to the foot of the frozen stair, and will bend beneath the awning. No, he won't have to beckon twice when the caretaker whistles his warning by the staircase of fire and ice. When the moment has come for our leaving, the wood and warmth within, the beating then, the grieving, how sharp the air, how thin. Then goodbye, warm hearts that love us. Goodbye to all we bear. Now we hear the whistle call us from the foot of the frozen stair. And it's into the bitter morning, beneath a frozen sky, out into a brittle dawning. Goodbye, my friend. Goodbye.
Oh.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wendy, those are not poems, those are diamonds.
Thank you, Rita.
Heartbreaking, stupendous reading.
Diamonds,
Yes,
unforgettable.
amazing.
Beautiful.
Thank you so
Really
much.
incredible. Great
Thank
poems.
you.
Everyone can applaud and unmute themselves.
We need these published, Wendy.
Fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. Not all of them. Some of them aren't.
Need a book, Wendy.
Disappointed.
Oh, in a book. Well, a couple of them were in my book that Karen Kelsey published back in 2016. The last two, and some were on Mezzo Camine, and Twilight appeared in her journal, Karen's journal, Orchards, at one point, and several of the other ones were in Mezzo Camine, and a couple haven't been.
So please, as always, we encourage everyone to buy these books by our esteemed readers, Wendy's book, Len's books, Annalina's. And thank you again so much to all three of our readers and to the open mic participants. This was fantastic. So really amazing reading. And
Thank you, Anton.
Thank you.
Next month, we're going to
Thanks to everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anton, thanks for making this happen.
Well, and thank you to Wendy and Therese. We all co-host this together, and it's really a pleasure. So our next reading will be on March 6th, and the feature readers will be Jessica Hornick, Angela France, and Michael Brown. So we hope to see you all then. Thank you.